for more than 30 years for their WDBO listeners. If you
Good morning and welcome to On the Money, right here on WDBO AM 580, always streaming inside your very own WDBO app. My name's Josh McCarthy, getting you to this here hour of Certified Financial Group's On the Money, answering any questions you may have. I should clarify, I am not the one who answers the questions, but I know somebody. I got Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine actually answering the questions today, and they are available to you at 844-580-9326, as the team at Certified Financial Group has been for nearly 40 years on the airwaves of WDBO. Chris Toadvine and Jessica Hall, again, two certified financial planners, as all the voices, all the expert voices that you hear from the Certified Financial Group are on this show. Jessica, Chris, how are we doing so far this morning?
Good morning, Josh. How you doing?
Doing just fine. Always happy to sit back with my pen and paper and listen to this episode's On the Money.
There we go. It's a beautiful, balmy day in Central Florida. Graduation season out there, right, Jessica?
That's right.
So hello to all of our graduates out there. But Jessica and I are here this morning on behalf of the 16 certified financial planners that make up Certified Financial Group. As we have been, Josh, as you said, for nearly 40 years, think about that, nearly 4 decades doing this, to really take our listeners' calls to help educate and equip them to make sound financial decisions. And Monday through Friday, Jessica and I and 14 other certified financial planners are here working on behalf of our clients for a fee. But today it's absolutely free. There is no charge to have your questions answered, or at least we'll try to answer them. You can play Stump the Planner, see if we have an answer to your questions. So, a lot of times listeners have questions about things like long-term care, annuities, life insurance, IRMA, Jessica, that's been a big one lately. Good old IRMA. Mutual funds, estate planning, retirement planning. How do I turn a portfolio into income? These kinds of things that are on the minds of so many people out there, as they realize accumulating assets is hard work, but sometimes it's even harder work to turn those assets into income. So if you have a question about these things or others that fall under the umbrella of personal finance, give us a call. The lines are wide open at these magic numbers.
The numbers are 844-580-9326. That's 844-580 WDBO, as always, also available to you within the open mic feature inside the WDBO app. If you've got a question for Jessica and Chris today, open up that app, find the open mic button down in the bottom right-hand corner, give us your best 10 to 15 seconds of a question, and I'll play it live on the air as if you're sitting here in studio with us. Again, 844-580-9326 to talk with Jessica or Chris live on the air. The topic of today's show is why comparison is financially destructive.
Ooh, such a provocative topic today.
It is, and I like it because it's so relatable for all of us,
Yes.
no matter what phase of life you are in. A lot of the topics we talk about may only apply to certain age groups or certain individuals in retirement, what have you. But this topic we can all relate to because we all compare against one another one way or another. But really, I want to start it off with the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses." Everybody's heard that phrase.
We've heard that. I feel bad for those people whose last name is Jones.
I know. But do we know where the phrase came from?
I don't know, Jessica. Do tell.
Well, I'm going to tell you because I looked it up just for today's show, and I had no idea, and it's quite surprising, but it's good. So it actually stemmed from back in the day, 1913.
Oh.
There was a cartoonist. I know.
Yeah.
So this is not a new concept. This is not.
Yeah, think about that. It's always been a thing. It is human nature to some degree, right?
It
to
is.
look at others.
It is,
Yeah.
exactly. And these days we think, oh, it's, social media is making it easier, but this has been around for a long time. So there was a cartoonist back in the day, his name was Pop, and him and his wife moved into a really big house to fit in with the wealthy neighbors out in Long Island, New York. And they couldn't afford the house, so it didn't take long that they had to move. So they moved to a smaller location in Manhattan. And the cartoonist that he is turned this into a comic strip.
Interesting.
So he turned his embarrassing story into a comic strip, and it was called Keeping Up with the Joneses.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Wow.
And the Joneses never made an appearance in this comic strip.
That's so funny.
And he almost called it Keeping Up with the Smiths.
Well, that was, the Smiths are glad he didn't call it that, but the
Yeah, there's a
Joneses
lot of
have been
Smiths
labeled
out
that way
there.
ever since. So
So the comic strip ran for 27 years, but we still use the phrase today. So I
Isn't that
thought that
something?
was really interesting. This is not a new concept of comparison, and Keeping Up with the Joneses all started with a cartoonist who bought a house that was too big.
and that the core of the story was financial,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That it was
exactly.
buying something he couldn't afford, looking at what others had, and
Exactly.
wanting to have that. Whether you could
Yeah.
afford it or not. Now, do you think that still happens today?
Absolutely, every day.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. We're constantly comparing ourselves, whether it's to the neighbors, to our cousins and siblings, or friends and family. But that's why we're talking about it today, because it can be financially destructive.
Do tell.
Well,
How can it be destructive? I mean, we could all kind of assume,
Yeah.
right, ways that would be not good, and that Keeping Up with the Joneses is a big example of that, right?
Absolutely.
In that you see what others have, you want it, hey, and inherent in that observation is you assume they can afford it too.
exactly. And that's a lot of coaching we do with our clients is you never want to assume what their financial picture really looks like. Because they may be buying the big house and whoever they are, the Joneses. But you really, truly never know what their financial situation. They could be in debt. They could be, living beyond their means, and they're too going to have to move and buy a smaller house if they keep it up. So you just never know, and that's the danger of comparing yourself to everybody else.
It's so true. It is so true.
Yeah.
And Jessica, I've seen over the years, what I have come to realize doing this work is that oftentimes, and many of our clients are people who have just put one foot in front of the other faithfully and consistently over a lot of years. They've applied the right principles. They've had the discipline to spend less than they earn. And in doing that, and be an investor, be an owner of businesses through the stock market, and they've accumulated wealth.
Yeah.
But a lot of times out there, I think there's a perception of what wealthy people do and look like, and I feel like with the availability of credit and all that we have today, very different than it was in 1913.
Yeah, very.
I'm guessing when he missed a mortgage payment or two, it was time to get out of the house.
That was
Whereas
it.
today, you could probably continue to keep the facade going for a long time.
Right.
But yeah, so that's a big challenge, I think, with society today, and credit cards, and you can put forth the appearance that hey, I've got a lot more than I really do,
Right.
or as they say in Texas, big hat, no cattle, right?
Right.
So yeah,
I like that one.
the appearance of wealth versus really applying the principles and maybe not looking like you have it, but having it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not that you can't have it if it's something that you truly want, and that's where we get really detailed when we do financial planning is we make sure to ask you what are some goals, what are hopes and dreams, what are large purchases that we need to plan for. But the key is that they're your large purchases. They're not, you're doing them because somebody else is doing them. You're doing them because it's something that you truly want to do.
Yeah.
And so we do help you plan for those. You can buy nice things and travel nicely. It's certainly, we're not trying to steer you away from it. But making sure that it's truly what you want and you're not doing it to impress others because, you're with the wrong friend group if you're just trying to impress people often.
Well, that's right. And so, it's interesting as I reflected on our topic today. I thought about a book called The Millionaire Next Door.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard of that book?
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
Win Smith, one of our planners here, whenever he first started, he started shortly after I did, gave me that book to read.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so what, the premise of that book for our listeners out there who may not have read it was just that the actual average millionaire in the United States doesn't look how people perceive them to look.
Right.
And I think the average millionaire, first of all, the researchers, Stanley and Danko, started by having, they invited people in the right zip codes and whatever who they assumed had wealth to a fancy place, and they served, fancy food.
Caviar.
And caviar
Right,
and
right.
fancy beverages, and the people didn't come. And if they came, they didn't eat the food.
Yeah.
And then they decided, hey, let's try to scale this down a little bit and see how that works, and a little less fancy place, and let's serve cheese and crackers and beer. And lots of people came and they ate the food. And that was their first clue that, oftentimes people who have money don't kind of behave the way that I think a lot in our society, and with social media today, you see these influencers and other people that appear to be living the life, but the reality was that the average millionaire drives like an F-150 or a
That's
Toyota
probably 10 or
Camry.
15 years old. They're not new
right.
every couple of years.
Yes. So now I'm also thinking of some ways that comparison could be healthy.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you think of any of those?
Let's say I think, are we still talking financially?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it could encourage you to save more, right? If maybe you're in a friend group or a family member who says, "Well, this is I'm saving into my 401k." It could have some FOMO with, "Well, I
Yes.
don't want to be left out of my 401k," right? So
Yes.
that's an opportunity.
Yeah, everybody's doing it.
Yeah, everybody's saving in
Yeah.
their retirement plan.
Yeah. Well, that would be a constructive, good thing for our society, right? I mean, if they're
Yeah.
comparing in that way.
What other things do you
And
think
then,
of?
well, another one that came to mind for me was, benchmarking, like how you invest. It can be
Okay.
good and bad,
Right.
right? And so a lot of times I think, you hear about my golf buddy made 85% last year, he didn't, well, I'm exaggerating
Yeah.
clearly, but, in
guarantees
other
there.
words, you oftentimes will hear stories about the high flyers and the big one
Yeah.
in terms of return, but you don't hear about the losses along the way. But I think benchmarking my portfolio against my goals, or
Right.
against what should I be doing in this season of life, not necessarily compared to my friends or a peer group or some social media influencer, but relative to my personal goals. What should I be doing? So that's one of the things that came to mind.
Okay. I like it. All right.
Any others? So, I think a lot of times, there are numbers out there, and you hear in financial media, and again, you gotta realize financial media is there to get clicks and to sell media and that sort of thing. And so,
Right.
sometimes you take that with a grain of salt, but you often see, hey, if you're this age, you should be at this point. And I think that, that again, while sometimes motivating to say, hey, maybe I'm not where I should be, and
Right.
and I'm questioning if I'm on track or not. But I think that can also be healthy to take a step back and examine my situation and go, okay, am I doing the things I need to do in order to get where I want to go based on my personal goals and objectives? But I'm hearing a little music, Jessica. So, Josh, I
hear
think
it.
we're up on the break. Take it away.
You got it. And that whole time you were talking about keeping up with the Joneses and lifestyle creep, I just, as my kids get older, they start joining more hobbies, and I feel there's so much pressure to do all the things the other moms and
yeah.
parents are doing. I'm like, I got to take some of these notes here. Jessica is dropping some knowledge today. If you want to call in, we got some open lines for you available at 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. You're listening to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow
Today.
Hey.
with the Certified Financial Group.
Been chosen once again as one of the top 100 financial advisory firms by CNBC out of nearly 40,000. And because they won't divulge the selection criteria, asked my colleagues what they thought.
Maybe it's because our history dates back almost 50 years.
Could be because we're independent.
But we custody with national firms like Fidelity and others.
17 CFP professionals under one roof.
Or it could be because we're CFEX certified.
And a real person answers the phone.
In any case, we're proud to have been selected. So if you're looking for financial planning or investment advice for a fee, look us up online.
You may be new to the area, but we're not. For more than 40 years, our certified financial planner professionals, acting as fiduciaries and providing retirement planning and asset management for a fee to countless families across Central Florida.
We've been with Certified since 1992.
We're now into the third or fourth generation of clients that have come to CFG and the team here to do a great job.
It's been so long since I've been doing this that I just don't even worry about anything anymore.
We're Certified Financial Group, where we're planning tomorrow, today.
As an investor, you want peace of mind. You need to know that your advisor is not only thoroughly competent, but also a fiduciary. In other words, he or she is acting at all times in your best interests. You need to trust your advisor, regardless of how much money you have to invest or what part of the world you're in. It might not be your money you're entrusting the advisor with. Perhaps you're a board member of a charity or foundation whose future depends on prudent investment. Or perhaps you have the responsibility of making investment decisions on behalf of other people. As the trustee of a retirement plan, the decisions you make can have a direct impact on the lives of your employees. Whatever type of investor you are, the solution is to use an advisor certified by the Center for Fiduciary Excellence. A CFEX certified advisory firm demonstrates its adherence to a global fiduciary standard of excellence, a defined standard with specific criteria covering 21 best practices. The documented, repeatable processes and the evidence-based decision-making that CFEX demands are more likely to generate investment portfolios that match client needs and expectations. And because the firm voluntarily agrees to a rigorous annual audit, investors can rest assured that their advisor continues to work to the highest professional standards. This independent verification is even more critical for trustees and investment committee members of retirement plans who are legally required to conduct regular due diligence on their service providers. Use a CFEX certified firm, and that job has been done already by an expert at no expense to the plan. So why leave anything to chance? Insist on working with investment professionals you can truly trust. Insist on using a CFEX certified advisor.
So you guys don't know Chicago, but I'm sure in your neighborhood you guys have an old school butcher where you walk in and there's a bunch of guys, no gloves, big white aprons, and there's Frank and there's Stevie and there's Mikey. And these guys know more about meat and more about animals and more about cooking the meat than any of us will ever learn. And so you walk in and you say, hey, Lou, I need to, I'm barbecuing this weekend, right? What do you like? And Lou goes to the big racks of stuff he has underneath the glass, and he goes, the veal chops, just in from Argentina, they are the bomb. And you go, veal, oh, I like veal. Well, what do you got on skirt steak? Oh, we got some great skirt steak, just came in yesterday from Montana. Skirt steak is one of my favorite, marinated up a little bit, it's fantastic. Lou will never say to you, Elliot, it's a little long on the meat here, big guy, your cholesterol is getting high. Why don't you go down to the fishmonger a couple blocks and have a nice piece of salmon? Right? He'll never do that. Why? His job is to sell me meat, and I go in, actually the same way I go into the Toyota dealership, because I like Toyotas, and I trust the salesman to sell me a good product if I trust him. And the fact that he's got my interest at heart vis-a-vis my expectations for selling me that thing. By the same token, when I go to see a dietitian, I know she's going to look at all of my labs, she's going to take all the measurements, she's going to run all of her
WDBO AM 580, always streaming inside your very own WDBO app. We got Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine here getting us through another wonderful hour of On the Money, brought to you by Certified Financial Group. And of course, Jessica and Chris are two certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group. So if you've got a question, maybe you heard something in the news this week, maybe you want to look ahead, maybe you're having that conversation that a certain demographic of people always have, is what to do when the retirement age comes, and are you ready? Are you prepared? How many months do you have until it's your big day? If you got questions about that, call right now, 844-580-9326, 844-580 WDBO. The topic of today's show with Jessica and Chris is comparison and why it is financially destructive.
Yeah, that's right, Josh. Let's pick up where we left off. We were talking about comparison. And Josh, you said something before the break that really struck a chord with me, how your kids, younger kids and all the activities that come along with that and the season of life you're in. And I think one of the challenges that we can all make in different seasons of life is to first of all, your kids want everything they see, and part of parenting is kind of teaching them that that's not realistic. But then the other thing is the parents see it, and a lot of times I think younger parents will look and see what their parents have, who are maybe twice their age, and they've worked twice as long to save and accumulate, and so that desire to have, Jessica, things that maybe people who are 20, 30 years ahead of you have, but they've worked and sacrificed a lot, and sometimes that's not always seen. So I think that's a big thing, and I think for our listeners out there, particularly those who are earlier on in their journey, I don't know that the comparison, the human nature part of that ever really goes away.
Right.
But I think that, for younger listeners who are in an early season of their financial journey, the opportunity is to really lay the right groundwork and the right foundation to build on, so that down the road, hopefully they can have some of those things that they see their parents and others having.
Right. It's about having patience while you're younger, and like you said, set the groundwork, start early, because then you'll be much more successful later in life.
Yes.
And have those things that you're dreaming of. But if you just have everything, there's really nothing to dream for, too.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And it's for a lot of people, I think it's more about freedom and not necessarily things, but the freedom. And that's, this, I think of the FIRE movement, where financial independence, retire early,
Right.
a lot of that was, all the rage for a while with young people. But I think the idea is financial independence and the freedom that kind of comes along with that. And, as I've heard from so many of my clients over the years, once they were able to retire, work just felt different for them.
Right.
That they were going to work because they wanted to, not because they had to. And there's just something in the psychology of that that's very freeing. So I think that's part of, the danger of comparing, but also the opportunity you have to build on the right foundation to really achieve financial independence.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
so. Any other things as we put a bow on this topic of challenges of comparison?
Just remember, it's your finish line. It's not anybody else's. And if you're going to compare yourself to anybody, compare yourself to yourself. Where were you 12 months ago? Are you in a better place? Are you doing better? Also, this one I might be a little biased, but work with a certified financial planner.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
we're going to help you put your financial plan together, but we're going to be a really good accountability partner. We meet together for reviews. We make sure that your goals are still in line. And
Yes.
if we're tracking along.
A fiduciary,
A fiduciary.
certified financial planner practitioner, a fiduciary, but we're living in the fast lane right now. So Josh, take it away.
What a fantastic segue, Chris. It's like you've done this before. You're a radio extraordinaire. We got Chris Toadvine and Jessica Hall, two certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group. And as Jessica was saying, it's great to have the expert help you with the plan. And even if you did all the studies 5 or 6 years ago, what I'm learning as the more and more I do this show with the experts at Certified Financial Group is the rules kind of change every couple of years. Like the percentage that was the case 10 years ago, it's a new percentage now, or there's a new tax here, or that old tax is not there anymore. So it's always good to have somebody who is up to speed on whatever is the latest in all these financial rules and laws and accounts and stuff. So again, Certified Financial Group is a great partner to have in your corner. You're listening to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow
Today.
with the Certified Financial Group.
So you guys don't know Chicago, but I'm sure in your neighborhood you guys have an old school butcher where you walk in and there's a bunch of guys, no gloves, big white aprons, and there's Frank and there's Stevie and there's Mikey. And these guys know more about meat and more about animals and more about cooking the meat than any of us will ever learn. And so you walk in and you say, hey, Lou, I need to, I'm barbecuing this weekend, right? What do you like? And Lou goes to, the big racks of stuff he has underneath the glass, and he goes, the veal chops, just in from Argentina, they are the bomb. And you go, veal, oh, I like veal. Well, what do you got on skirt steak? Oh, we got some great skirt steak, just came in yesterday from Montana. Skirt steak is one of my favorite, marinated up a little bit, it's fantastic. Lou will never say to you, Elliot, it's a little long on the meat here, big guy. Your cholesterol's getting high. Why don't you go down to the fishmonger a couple blocks and have a nice piece of salmon? Right? He'll never do that. Why? His job is to sell me meat, and I go in, actually the same way I go into the Toyota dealership, because I like Toyotas, and I trust the salesman to sell me a good product if I trust him. And the fact that he's got my interest at heart vis-a-vis my expectations for selling me that thing. By the same token, when I go to see a dietitian, I know she's going to look at all of my labs, she's going to take all the measurements, she's going to run all of her analysis, and she's going to absolutely give me her best thinking on what's best for me. Whether she's a vegetarian or a meat lover, likes this, likes that, if she thinks I should be doing something differently, even if it's not good for her, she's going to give me an opinion that's for my interest. So what's the difference between a fiduciary and the brokers? Well, these are dietitians, these are butchers. It's that simple. Brokers are butchers selling product. Fiduciaries are dietitians looking after your health. The problem is most people think that their butcher is a dietitian. So when one of your moms or dads or friends calls the broker and says, I got 200 grand, I sold a little piece of property, or I got some inheritance, what should I do with it? They're going in thinking they're talking to a dietitian, and they're really talking to Lou the butcher.
What is a fiduciary? When it comes to investing, a fiduciary is legally required to act in your best interest. For 40 years, planners at Certified Financial Group have been guiding our local clients toward financial peace of mind. The rest of the world is still catching up, but our team of certified financial planners are the local, experienced fiduciaries you can trust. Certified Financial Group are your Central Florida planners. Call us today.
CFG has been chosen once again as one of the top 100 financial advisory firms by CNBC out of nearly 40,000. And because they won't divulge the selection criteria, asked my colleagues what they thought.
Maybe it's because our history dates back almost 50 years.
Could be because we're independent.
But we custody with national firms like Fidelity and others.
17 CFP professionals under one roof.
Or it could be because we're CFEX certified.
And a real person answers the phone.
In any case, we're proud to have been selected. So if you're looking for financial planning or investment advice for a fee, look us up online.
You may be new to the area, but we're not. For more than 40 years, our certified financial planner professionals, acting as fiduciaries and providing retirement planning and asset management for a fee to countless families across Central Florida.
We've been with Certified since 1992.
We're now into the third or fourth generation of clients that have come to CFG and the team here to do a great job.
It's been so long since I've been doing this that I just don't even worry about anything anymore.
We're Certified Financial Group, where we're planning tomorrow, today.
are consistent. Like me.
Right.
Welcome back to On the Money here on WDBO AM 580, always streaming inside your very own WDBO app. If you open up that app and you also have a question for a certified financial planner, I invite you to hit the open mic button, record over 10 to 15 seconds. It sends it over to my computer here. I'll push play as if you're sitting here in studio with us. And us consists today of Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine, two certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group. They are here to answer your questions. Pretty broad questions you have here. The topic of today's show is just comparison and how that can be financially destructive. Keeping up with the Joneses, or maybe some lifestyle creep as you get into different circles as maybe your income increases, and how to just maintain that discipline that got you into a proper plan for retirement. And that is what Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine do all the time in the offices of Certified Financial Group. And right now, they're doing it on the air right now for the low cost of free. We do have Charles Curry, of course, taking calls off the air. If your question is a little bit more financially specific or a little too personal for the airwaves, we do have Charles Curry, a third certified financial planner, standing by to answer your calls at 407-869-9800. That's 407-869-9800. 9800. But on the air, we got Jessica and Chris walking us through this hour, and they're available to you at 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. Jessica, Chris, what do you say we hit up some of these text questions
Let's
here?
do it, Josh.
Sounds good.
What do we got?
This one comes to us from the far, far away land of Kissimmee.
Ooh.
And they say that we've got about $8,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest. But I also want to start investing. Should I pay off the debt first or start my 401k?
Okay, what do you do? Jessica, what do you say? That's 22%. That's an ouchie.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's painful. Well, Sarah, first let me applaud you by reaching out. I think that's a great first step. And you're being aware of it, not just building that debt even more. But really, in our world, financial planning 101, some things that we like to tackle is our emergency savings, so that way we can prevent this in the future. But to answer your specific question, a good rule of thumb is if your employer matches on your 401k, I would at least start with that. You don't want to leave free money on the table. So for example, if they match 100% on the first 3%, try to get to the first 3%, and then any other additional cash flow positives from there can heavily go towards your credit card balance at 22%, because that'll put a hurting on you over the long run. And then from there, once the debt is heavily paid off, I would focus a little more on that emergency fund. So have a good cushion, 3 to 6 months of your salary, just in case something happens to you, or your AC breaks down, your car breaks down, the kids need a dentist, whatever it may be.
All the above.
All the
same
above
month.
at the same time.
Murphy
that
comes
happens.
knocking. That's right.
Right. It happens in threes. But so get your employer match, pay off your credit card, focus on your emergency savings, and then let's come back to the 401k and start pushing more money in there. There's IRS maximums, but focus on those things first. Anything you want to add, Chris?
Well, look, I think that's good advice, Jessica. The thing that really jumped out to me was 22% interest. And I will tell you, if you're making the minimum payment on that, you're not going to get ahead.
No, how many years would that take to pay off?
Well, maybe never if you're making minimum payments. So, the balance is likely going to continue to grow. So, I think that, from a purely financial standpoint, you think, okay, Sarah, again, good job asking the question, but if you invest your money, now there have been places where you make 22%, but I wouldn't count on that, over time in a diversified portfolio, right? So you kind of go, okay, the simple math of this thing is your best return is paying off the debt first, And then, as Jessica said, I think you work on building an emergency fund, because you know what I've learned, Jessica?
What's that?
When you have an emergency fund, you
don't
stop
need it?
having emergencies.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the panic goes away when the
Right,
car
right.
breaks down or you need some new tires or what, all these things that life throws at you. So,
Sleep
so I
better
think,
at night.
what's that?
You sleep better at
Well,
night.
you do, peace of mind. That's what this financial planning process is really all about. Knowing, not managing anxiety, right? That's what financial planning helps you, not to just manage the anxiety, but to have confidence in the decisions you make. And I think that's what we here at Certified Financial Group do day by day, is we help our clients have confidence in the plan that they have for them, which is unique and tailored to them as their portfolios are, so that they can sleep at night. That's the bigger goal. So Sarah, I think Jessica was spot on. Knock out that credit card, build an emergency fund, and then really work at piling it away in your 401k.
Yeah, you want to talk about investment returns. 22% is a guaranteed 22% loss, right? Right off the bat.
Well, yeah, it's a you could think of it as a guaranteed 22% return if you pay it down, right?
Yeah,
so
that's another way. I like that
yeah,
way.
the other side of the coin. So, Josh, it looks like we got another text question in there.
You got it. We're going from the beginning of saving to maybe someone approaching retirement. This one comes from Winter Garden, and Linda says Linda has a pension coming plus Social Security. Her financial advisor says that she does not need that much savings, but something doesn't feel right, rather, and she wants to know if she's just missing something.
Linda. So she has Social Security and she has a pension, and her advisor is saying she doesn't need to save much. What do you think, Jessica? I guess I'd have some more questions, like what is Linda's age, and and what's her financial status, and how much would those Social Security and pension be, relative to her lifestyle. But given what we know, what do you think?
Well, what do you think? So, Linda, I think you're right to question your advisor, and if something doesn't feel right, it absolutely never hurts to get a second opinion.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, depending on your trust in your advisor or their history and what they're doing for you, how detailed did they get into your financial planning? Because sure, as long as you have sufficient income to cover your day-to-day needs.
Yes.
The last text question, we talked about emergencies. What about those emergencies? Do you have enough savings to cover those? Or big purchases, like eventually, depending on how old you are, you may need another car at some point, or long-term care needs. We talk about that often. How are you going to cover those healthcare needs later in life? So I think it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion, maybe do some deeper diving into your own personal situation to make sure you have all those things covered other than just high income. High income is great, especially in retirement.
Yes.
But you certainly
high guaranteed income,
Right.
if it's high. We don't know here.
Right.
We're flying blind a little bit. But yeah, I think second opinion. Look, we give second opinions here all the time, right?
Yeah.
We have
Second,
people reach
third,
out to
fourth.
us, and yes, so but that's what we do, and I think oftentimes, as Jessica, as you said, if somebody goes to the doctor and they hear something that's shocking or alarming, what do you do? I mean, do you just accept that and keep walking the path, or do you question it? And I think it's okay to question, and you should feel comfortable questioning your advisor if you're hearing things that sound questionable. But I think in this case with Linda, look, I think it's always good to have some savings, even if your income covers all your expenses. And I have folks who are just very fortunate and blessed to have Social Security and strong pension income, who save money from that. I mean, so they have built, cash reserves and investments from that excess. And perhaps that's Linda's situation. I don't know. But I think as a rule, it's, we could say the principle would be that it's good to have savings, at least savings. And then beyond savings, kind of like our last text question to Sarah said, hey, build an emergency fund, have some savings, and then invest beyond that. And I think that's generally a good thing. Again, situation specific.
Right.
So without more, information here from Linda, it's tough to know exactly how we would advise her. But I think you're right, Jessica. That's what we do here at Certified Financial Group as financial planners. We dig into the detail.
Oh yeah, nitty and gritty, more than you want to give us.
Well, sometimes, yeah, but that's, as the saying goes, the devil's in the details. And I think that ultimately, that's what we do to get the best result for our clients. That's the goal and objective, is to really help them get to the finish line and to have enough and to have peace of mind along the way. That is the goal. And sometimes that does require getting into detail. And that's what financial planning is all about, looking at your situation in light of your goals. And, that's what makes it personal. Everybody's situation is different. Their dreams and desires are different. And so that's what we help translate those dreams and desires into practical action and help you, understand what is the 1, 2, 3. I talked to someone this week, and he really appreciated that we gave him a 1, 2, 3, 4 things to do. Like this is the list of things that you need to do next. And he said he just really, we kind of, in other words, made it bite size.
Yeah.
It wasn't just all these big nebulous ideas. It was practical 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's what you need to do. Let's accomplish those things. Once they're done, we'll come back for the next round. So that's what we do. It looks like we got another text question, Josh.
That's right. Yeah, again, if I can go back to something you just said there, Chris and Jessica, you both said one of the first steps that I think is so important is realizing that it may be time for an expert, right?
Yeah.
There have been people that I've heard that, get a sinking anxiety feeling when they just log into their credit card account. They don't know, they're not keeping track of their spending. Maybe there's just this feeling inside them that they're afraid. And as soon as they log in, that's when it becomes real, right? They see the numbers, they see the hurdles ahead of them, and it just helps to have somebody in your corner like a Jessica Hall or a Chris Toadvine or any of the qualified certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group, just to take that. Maybe I don't want to say burden, but just to help them. You might feel helpless at times.
To walk with them, Josh. That's really
exactly
what we do. We kind of walk with them, and sometimes, like you say, that first step is the hardest, and you log in and you get that agita around. Oh my goodness, I got to deal with this thing. And believe it or not, folks get that in a negative sense from like the debt, but also they get overwhelmed when they build a portfolio.
Right.
And work a lifetime, build a portfolio, and they don't want to screw it up. And so that's what we do as certified financial planners, is we really help people come up with a tangible game plan for what do I do next. And I think sometimes that's not understood by the consuming public out there who have not worked with an advisor, who just think that, financial planners only invest money. Look, that's a big part of what we do, invest it prudently and, keeping in mind taxes and how do you unwind a portfolio as well. It's accumulating, it's one thing, unwinding it's another thing altogether.
More difficult.
It's more difficult. And, I've got a couple folks who are staring down retirement, and this whole idea of, okay, I've worked my whole life, but when the paycheck stops, there's a switch in folks' minds that flips. And it can be anxiety producing, Josh, like you're describing. And I think that's where, we come in, and that's, the Calvary's here.
That's right.
Waiting to help.
That's right. We've often, at least I've heard it a few times, been compared like going to the doctor or the dentist. They're scared to come see us.
That's what I was just going to say.
And, they a little bit of agony about coming to their appointment, but in the end, they often find peace of mind. We walk them through it. We're gentle.
Right.
We're not ripping out teeth.
We should have a blood pressure cuff out in the lobby to see if people's blood pressure goes up like it does at the doctor. I don't know. So, but maybe we shouldn't, and then measure it when they're on their way out, right? And it's lower, and they feel that peace of mind. That would be pretty cool. So, but at any rate. Well, that's good stuff. And look, I think as certified financial planners, that's what we do. That's what we do Monday through Friday. Certified Financial Group help our clients, figure out all these different facets of finances, come up with a tangible game plan that meets their needs in light of their circumstances and dreams and goals. And we can do that for you. So, Josh, what are those magic numbers? The lines are wide open. We got a little time on the next side of the break.
That's right. We got Steve who wrote in. We got open lines available to you at 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. We also have Charles Curry taking your calls off the air. Charles Curry is available to you at 407-869-9800. Again, Charles is another certified financial planner with the Certified Financial Group, 407-869-9800. Steve's got a question about it feels like he's starting over in his 40s. And we'll run that one by Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine. coming up after this here break. You are listening to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow, today, with the Certified Financial Group.
So you guys don't know Chicago, but I'm sure in your neighborhood you guys have an old school butcher where you walk in and there's a bunch of guys, no gloves, big white aprons, and there's Frank and there's Stevie and there's Mikey. And these guys know more about meat and more about animals and more about cooking the meat than any of us will ever learn. And so you walk in and you say, hey, Lou, I need to, I'm barbecuing this weekend, right? What do you like? And Lou goes to the big racks of stuff he has underneath the glass, and he goes, the veal chops, just in from Argentina, they are the bomb. And you go, veal? Oh, I like veal. Well, what do you got on skirt steak? Oh, we got some great skirt steak. Just came in yesterday from Montana. Skirt steak is one of my favorite, marinated up a little bit. It's fantastic. Lou will never say to you, Elliot, it's a little long on the meat here, big guy. Your cholesterol is getting high. Why don't you go down to the fishmonger a couple blocks and have a nice piece of salmon? Right? He'll never do that. Why? His job is to sell me meat, and I go in, actually the same way I go into the Toyota dealership, because I like Toyotas, and I trust the salesman to sell me a good product if I trust him. And the fact that he's got my interest at heart vis-a-vis my expectations for selling me that thing. By the same token, when I go to see a dietitian, I know she's going to look at all of my labs, she's going to take all the measurements, she's going to run all of her analysis, and she's going to absolutely give me her best thinking on what's best for me. Whether she's a vegetarian or a meat lover, likes this, likes that, if she thinks I should be doing something differently, even if it's not good for her, she's going to give me an opinion that's for my interest. So what's the difference between a fiduciary and the brokers? Well, these are dietitians, these are butchers. It's that simple. Brokers are butchers selling product. Fiduciaries are dietitians looking after your health. The problem is most people think that their butcher is a dietitian. So when one of your moms or dads or friends calls the broker and says, I got 200 grand, I sold a little piece of property, or I got some inheritance, what should I do with it? They're going in thinking they're talking to a dietitian, and they're really talking to Lou the butcher.
What is a fiduciary? When it comes to investing, a fiduciary is legally required to act in your best interest. For 40 years, planners at Certified Financial Group have been guiding our local clients toward financial peace of mind. The rest of the world is still catching up, but our team of certified financial planners are the local, experienced fiduciaries you can trust. Certified Financial Group are your Central Florida planners. Call us today.
40 years ago, I had a dream.
CFG has been chosen once again as one of the top 100 financial advisory firms by CNBC out of nearly 40,000. And because they won't divulge the selection criteria, asked my colleagues what they thought.
Maybe it's because our history dates back almost 50 years.
Could be because we're independent.
But we custody with national firms like Fidelity and others.
17 CFP professionals under one roof.
Or it could be because we're CFEX certified.
And a real person answers the phone.
In any case, we're proud to have been selected. So if you're looking for financial planning or investment advice for a fee, look us up online.
You may be new to the area, but we're not. For more than 40 years, our certified financial planner professionals, acting as fiduciaries and providing retirement planning and asset management for a fee to countless families across Central Florida.
We've been with Certified since 1992.
We're now into the third or fourth generation of clients that have come to CFG and the team here to do a great job.
It's been so long since I've been doing this that I just don't even worry about anything anymore.
We're Certified Financial Group, where we're planning tomorrow, today.
As an investor, you want peace of mind. You need to know that your advisor is not only thoroughly competent, but also a fiduciary. In other words, he or she is acting at all times in your best interests. You need to trust your advisor, regardless of how much money you have to invest or what part of the world you're in. It might not be your money you're entrusting the advisor with. Perhaps you're a board member of a
Perfect. Welcome back to the final 4 minutes of this episode of On the Money here on WDBO AM 580, always streaming inside your WDBO app. I want to thank Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine for another great experience, intellectual and intelligent conversation. Just trying to inform people about good steps to get you to and through retirement here on the airwaves of WDBO. Certified Financial Group, always here to help anybody who just calls in or just needs a little help every once in a while to get to and through retirement. We do have Charles Curry taking calls off the air if a question pops into your head in the next few minutes, but this episode ends. Great news, Charles Curry, his own private radio show there in the offices of On the Money, or on the Certified Financial Group, rather. Charles, available to you at 407-869-9800. That's 407-869-9800. 9800, or Chris and Jessica. If a listener wants to come on down to the workshop, come on down to the futuristic offices of Certified Financial Group, that's an option for them as well.
That is an option. They can come to our world headquarters located in Altamont Springs, just off I-4, near the 434 exit, and see. Our next workshop is June 27th, so about a month out, June 27th. That's Tax Efficient Investing and Distribution Strategies. Justin Spittler is going to be doing that one. So again, Tax Efficient Investing and Distribution Strategies, June 27th. And then Charles Curry will be doing Social Security planning, the basic rules and claiming strategies. There are so many different ways to claim Social Security. It requires some definite attention and knowledge. And so that'll be July 18th. That's after Independence Day. And that'll be both of those at 10 in the morning. And then lastly, we've got Win Smith on August 1st, tax planning changes through 4 stages of retirement. So how tax planning changes through 4 stages of retirement. Win Smith, that's August 1st. So we have a workshop in June, July, and August coming up. You can check out our website at financialgroup.com, financialgroup.com to learn more and to register. And Josh, I think we had one more text question. Let's try to get to that before we wrap up for this episode.
We sure do. Steve is going to bring it home for us. And Steve says, my divorce has just been finalized. He got the house, but gave up half of his 401k and other savings. Steve feels like he's starting over in his 40s and just wants to know, where do I begin?
Okay, well, Steve, thanks for reaching out. We appreciate that. Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need more detail, feel free to reach out. I know we're at the tail end of the show here, but first and foremost, don't, you may not feel like it, but you are still young. So plenty of time.
For sure.
Plenty of time to start rebuilding. It's not a failure. It's just a reset. But really the first thing I would say, it's not even necessarily financial, but make sure you check all your beneficiaries. Okay. Check your beneficiaries on the house, check your beneficiaries on your 401k, make sure all that's updated.
Yes.
Big life events is when you want to get that done, marriages, divorces, new babies, all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. So check your beneficiaries and then really get accustomed to what your new living expenses are going to be with just yourself, your new lifestyle. I don't know if you have kids or dependents and what that looks like, but certainly get adjusted to your new lifestyle. What are the expenses going to cost you? Did you go from 2 incomes down to 1? Make those adjustments before making any changes, but then certainly any cash flow positives that you got, start chucking away, start saving. Do you have a 401k? Do you have your emergency savings? Did some of that get wiped out? Again, you're not, you didn't miss the boat. There's still plenty of time, but you may have some catching up to do. And at least realizing that is going to get you there more confidently.
Yeah, that's right, Jessica. I think, I would say to Steve that you have time, but you don't have time to waste. So, you do have time to accumulate and to rebuild your financial life to the degree that it needs that. But what I would say is also that's what we can help people identify. What are those things that they need to do where they are in order to take the next steps towards a sound and solid financial future? And I think you laid out several of them there. beneficiaries, your estate planning. Those are big things. And then, working down to your cash flow and having margin and all the things we do day by day to help people get on track and get to and through retirement, as we say. So if you have questions that didn't get addressed today or something you want to take offline, Charles Curry is out there, and he'll be glad to take your call, or you can visit our website, financialgroup.com. And we are in the second opinion business, so that's what we do. That's what we help people with all the time. So we'd love to do it for you as well. And Josh, I hear some music, and Jessica, I think it's a wrap. So, have a great Saturday, Central Florida.
All right.
Thank you so much, Jessica Hall and Chris Toadvine with the Certified Financial Group. You, the listener, have just listened to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow
Today.
with the Certified Financial Group.